Well, good afternoon, Scott Baker. Happy Monday afternoon to you.
Happy Monday afternoon to you, Mikey. It is the 27th of October 2025, and this is it. It's field note 1600 over the last 4 years plus, and excited to talk about it here on Lead Better. This is what we're going to do, and we're doing it right now.
Yeah, so I like this topic a lot. It's been something that I've been tangentially thinking about for some time because,
Pardon. Is,
yeah.
are there glasses on top of
Oh,
your?
yeah, those are my readers. These are my computers. Those are my readers. So sometimes my readers get on my
Now,
head.
if you put your head further down, like,
Is
and I could
there,
just see it would no, no,
you
no.
want,
It would look. I would see the glasses. It would look like
is
I'm
there a
talking to
third
a
pair?
different.
Is that what you're wondering? Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
third
well,
pair.
oh goodness gracious!
No.
I kind of no. I don't know. I sort of felt like I was in a Charles Dickens novel, and you were one of the street urchins or something.
Yeah,
But
right, right, right.
it's a good look. I like it. Okay. I apologize to everyone for interrupting your story. I just needed to take a pause, which is the title of the field note, which I
To
didn't, which is
understand
taking a moment for reflection.
what you were looking
And
at.
we
Right.
did not even reflect on the 1600 field notes. We did not even really reflect on the topic, but we started getting distracted by Mikey's appearance. For those of
Yes.
you listening to the podcast version, uh, Mikey has a what do you call that kind of hat?
Newsy hat?
It's a newsy hat. My daughter is actually in a musical production of Newsies right now, and
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. You look like one of the street urchins, right? Either
Yes.
in
Yes.
one of the boroughs or whatnot. But you're wearing
Urchin.
glasses, and then you have glasses perched on your Newsies hat. So there we go.
Yes.
We set the stage for everybody listening.
Yes.
Now go back to your reflection.
Okay. So I feel like I'm not as good of a broadcaster as I should be, which only goes like we do this every day, right? But we use a tool called Descript, which breaks down the transcript. And so when Andrew, who's listening to us right now, our producer, takes this recording and creates a little clip, then we get a transcript of that. Well, the entire
Right.
thing is transcripted, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I've gone back through and looked at a few of our past full videos. And what I've been doing as I've been listening is I've been reading along. And so I have a tendency to read faster than I listen. And as I'm reading, I'm recognizing I don't speak in complete sentences a lot of the
Okay.
time, right? So I'm not being clear, like in terms of like, so part of this was a little bit of competition. I was like, why is Scott getting clipped more than Mikey is? What's actually going
Oh,
on here? And because so
sure.
I leaned into that competitive notion of like what
Right.
was going on instead of like just
Right.
blaming Andrew for clipping me less. And I realized what the real issue is
I,
I'm
I have alerted, by the way, the grammar and diction police if you hear the sirens
oh, that's what that
behind
is.
me.
Okay.
Yes, but they'll be pulling up to your house shortly. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last couple times we've done these, I've been thinking about taking a moment, just like a pause before I actually complete a sentence, before I start a sentence, so that it'll actually complete the sentence, right?
Right.
And I don't know if it might help coming forward. It might help in the next few months, but I think taking that pause to actually think through just for a moment what I'm actually going to
What you're
say
trying to say.
and
Okay.
complete the thought as well might
Yes. Right.
actually I might actually start competing with the amount of time of possession you have in our social clips.
I don't think I was even like cognizant. Now I do see some of the social clips, not all. I'd also, by the way, I'd be curious in the script clips that Andrew's doing. Substack also kind of does their auto clip that they do of
Yes.
each episode, right? So now I don't know if people are using different AIs or suggestions, or Andrew takes his own notes,
Right.
and I've just said, listen, it's like you should take notes on. Mikey's fine, but just take notes on what I say.
No, it's true in the auto clips that are coming out of Substack as well. Most of them were of you. Most of them were. So I figured that there must be
Interesting.
something to do with the way that I was speaking because it was
could
true for
it could
Andrew
be.
and it was true for AI.
Well, that's a good point of reflection. Now, one thing I will say, and just because I had decades of of actual broadcasting, experience.
Yes.
I don't over-index on myself on complete sentences. This is just a side note to today's field note for those leaders who are in the business of speaking out loud. Like I don't get too hung up on filler words or little hesitancies, because we actually use those normally, we're not using them, but they actually signal that we're in a real conversation.
Yes.
It's not as though I'm doing some perfect delivery. Now,
my brain was working
Yeah.
fast enough that I was actually interrupting myself too much.
Yes, I can. That is a problem, and I've had that problem myself many times. But one of the things that one of our colleagues had asked me about a presentation she did a couple years ago, and I've been a presentation coach at different times. I don't think that I know wildly more than many people do, but I've got a few little convictions, and one that I kind of came to over time was just stick the landing. Now, that's true at the presentation, and I just said, make sure that you stick your landing, which is if you're going to wrap up that talk or that interview or whatever, really have a good summary thought that you leave people. They're going to remember how you started, they're going to remember how you made them feel, and they'll remember how you ended it, right?
Yes.
In many ways.
Well, it made me realize that I'm nervous about pauses. Like in between the pause, like I want to be ready as soon as you stop talking to have like a really pithy comeback or a retort in such a way that makes it feel like we are really having a repartee.
Yeah.
So a pause between your statement and my statement was something that I was apprehensive towards. And then I started to recognize how often I listen on 1.5 audio speed.
Right.
To both audiobooks and to podcasts. I'm always zipping it up. And then something happened last week where my app got reset and I was back down to 1 speed instead of the default 1.5 speed.
Right.
And I thought, this is really slow.
The
but this is how but this is how most people listen. And so it made me kind of recognize again, okay, the pause in your and I back and forth is okay. And it actually gives me the time to be able to think through, it's just a split second, what's the beginning, what's the middle, and then how to stick the ending of every sentence, not just sticking the ending of the 15 minutes we've had together.
You kind of know this, and I don't think these are trivial topics. I'll circle into it this way, which is when I even talked about the idea of sticking the landing, that little fractals of that happen within communication, including at the end of the sentence. Right. So if you're actually creating a point and making a point and developing it, and then you actually say, and this is why this is important, right? You're sticking the landing on the sentence, even if you have 40 other sentences to come, right? Now, all of those things, you can have all kinds of rhythm that go along, short sentences, long sentences. I actually tend to like speakers. I don't always do this myself, but I like speakers where there's a lot of energy at the beginning of the sentence. Some of them are really masterful and they don't even do it consciously. Like, they always begin a sentence and they come here and then they go here and there it is, right? One of the things I really want you to know about this is this. There's another point that I've come to realize over time. There's a thing and then they'll kind of go into a different thing in a different register. Then they'll come back up to a different thing. So each of it's kind of pulling you along. It's kind of like saying, come on, here we go, right? So those are all really important things in communication. Now, the pauses in communication and not being afraid of the silence becomes wildly important. That's the topic of the field note for the leader in thinking. But salespeople know this. Make the case for it. Don't start apologizing for your own product. Let the silence linger. Put a question out there. Don't make it actually uncomfortable for the other person. But even when we're talking, I think there's room for a pause. Now you have to be aware we're not doing this around a campfire, right?
Yes.
So we are not wanting to waste people's time. But when you're listening to a podcast and the ones you speed up and the ones you slow down, the ones you're really speeding up, like when you go to 1.75, those people don't have as much to say. You actually feel like you can keep up with them because it's not that profound.
Right.
You know that when it starts getting profound, what are you going to do?
Slow that thing down. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. So is this a wise thing to do, whether or not you feel like you have trouble with it? Right.
The pause, the time to reflect.
So I wanted to kind of instill this kind of behavior in our back and forth in the middle of our speech because I was clued in with the idea that you were getting more airtime than me. I wanted to compete with that, right? But if we didn't actually have some of those indicators, is it still something that every leader should like pause even longer than you are, right? And that's why I like the last sentence of the field note, or one of the last. If you can't remember the last time you told others that you needed time to process, to think about it, and I'll get back with you. If you haven't done that in a while, it probably means that you're too fast on the draw.
Right. Well, you know, there's actually a bunch of different benefits that happen in that, which is that when you're saying to somebody, let me think about this and get back to you, that's creating a cadence.
Yes.
Particularly if it's somebody that you don't know well, that creates a deeper relationship. And when you're setting things up for another conversation, wonderful, right?
Right.
In fact, oftentimes I've realized this myself as a experienced married person. I don't have to say everything.
Yeah.
I can actually save things to save later or talk about, like I don't have to get, I used to think I had to get everything out. And even with friends of mine, like I'll be on the phone or whatever and I'll be talking about something. I have other stuff that I want to kind of get up, but I'm like, I don't have to do that right now.
Right.
Let's take a pause. Let's get that to the next conversation. Those are all wonderful moments. I listened to a podcast this morning, two very brilliant guys, one of them very well known, and profound, intellectual, a medical doctor, a psychiatrist. And one of the things that was interesting was at the end of the podcast, the host had said, well, maybe we'll continue this in another conversation. I know you're both busy. And the brilliant guy, they're both brilliant, but the really well-known brilliant guy said, I've really enjoyed this. And so whether or not we can get it back on the schedule for this one, can you connect me with the other guest? Because I've so enjoyed this conversation and I have more that I want to discuss. And I love that feeling of here's somebody who is used to explaining their view to everyone, right? Who is more curious about what the other person had to say, even after a 2-hour podcast conversation. That's a wonderful thing.
Right. So the pause should be built into a lot of different areas as well. So, and it actually brings a lot of benefit to like decision making, which is mentioned in the field note. But how do you structurally build in a pause to a decision-making process? I had the opportunity to help my daughter change out a part on her car over the weekend. And then something else went wrong with it. And she needed to get back down to Austin. She was going to start work this morning. And so I immediately had an idea of what we could do to help her out. Maybe we could switch cars and you could take our car. I'll keep yours for the week. We'll see your sister next week. We'll do the exchange then. But instead of like just presenting that as I said, how do I build in a pause? Because if my daughter's getting a little bit emotional, she's a little bit stressed here about needing to get back home really fast. How do I don't want her to make a fast decision. I don't want her on the side of the highway with a dead battery. So how do we build this in such a way so it's not a rash decision? So we decided that, or my suggestion was, let's just take 5 minutes to brainstorm all the different possibilities that we could do. We're not going to decide what we're going to do. We're not even going to discuss what's the best option yet. We're just going to say, what are the things that are an option for us? Right now, part of that was because I didn't know how my wife would respond to me suggesting that we give my daughter our car for the week and we take her bad car. I see. Yeah. So there was a strategic pause, but it was also like, well, that's what I want to do anyway. What I actually want to do is the thing that I'm suggesting. Let's actually just brainstorm possibilities.
Yes.
And by the time we got, and there was a little bit of advocacy started peeking out when people would suggest things, and I'd be like, well, let's hold off on making decisions yet. Right. And
don't rush the tactics.
When I read the field note, I was like, oh, that's what that was. Like one of the main reasons that it worked was because we were pausing. We were intentionally throttling back the actual decision, by taking us through the pausing and the process and the brainstorming and everything that actually led to, is this the best decision? Okay, that's the decision we'll make.
Well, and you pointed to the fact that your daughter, there might have been some emotion that she was kind of wrestling with in this. And one of the things that we know is that when there is an interaction of any kind and there is an intensity of emotion, what is happening? The amygdala is flooding your system with cortisol. It's creating this level of tension, and it impairs the decision making. So taking
because
that
you
pause,
don't want to have those chemicals running through your brain,
exactly
so
right.
you want to eliminate it all, right?
Yes, right. But that pause allows the prefrontal cortex to kind of come back online. So that's the science underlying this field note, which is let's do this as leaders. Think about, which is hard, the discipline of the moment to be like, here's where I'm actually passionate, and then also then helping teams to do that. It's like we had this intense discussion. Everybody, let's take some time. It's not like a timeout, like where they send everybody to their corners, right? It's more of like, hey, let's go think about this. Now, I do think that there's a balance because I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, sometimes I'll do like the first half of a workout in the gym in the evening. And I don't like to take a long, and the intense parts usually come toward the end. And I don't like to take a long pause, but sometimes I'll need some extra, carbohydrates to get through the back half. But if I take like 7 minutes instead of 3 minutes, my whole system starts to go, okay, I guess we're done for today.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a level here where I think there's a pause, but it's not a, let me go just kind of lay down for a while. Now, naps are good. You might get a creative solution. But there are the moments where energy is important. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Right. I agree. Taking the pause is probably more important than stressing on the length of the pause.
Yeah.
But both are important.
And I have a clip that you can be in, I think, that'll be the end of this, which is when I first got on, you were talking with Andrew about problem solving, and you were talking about like plumbing and carburetors and and the idea that if you're dealing with a plumbing situation like a plumber, you might have to break the drywall. And it was kind of like you explaining through a Lego lens because you're a Lego expert. So I think your book should be called The Lego Guide to Life.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then you could start to kind of put all of these lessons in that. So there you go.
Right. Yes. Breaking the drywall. There's a mixed
Lego
modifier
guide,
there. We got to figure that out.
Well,
all right. Well, thank you for helping me
complete your elevator pitch for the Lego Guide to Life.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott. Bye now.
All right. Thanks, Mike.